Data logging on the EMS is broken up into two categories: PC data logging and ECU data logging. The differences between the two are where the data is physically recorded and stored and the sample rates. When you're doing PC logging, the sample rates are a lot slower than if you're doing ECU logging at the highest sample rate. Some scenarios where you might want to use PC logging over ECU logging would be setting up your two-step, or setting up your anti-lag, setting up relays to switch on and off, testing fan control, or doing some basic idle tuning, or anything that doesn't require a ton of resolution. Where you'd want to use ECU logging is if you are on the dyno, or if you're at the drag strip, or if you're doing a few hot laps at the racetrack. So let's go over PC logging first. Now, PC logging is essentially going to log all of the parameters in your channels menu. So anything that's configured over here will show up in your PC log. In order to start PC logging, you hit the F6 key, and to stop logging, you hit the F7 key. You can also do it from the menu up here under logging, and there's start and stop logging, and also on the lower right hand corner there's a stop and start logging. Now, if you don't have all of the parameters you wish to record within your channels menu, it's simple enough to add them. You just right click and insert a new channel. I'll go ahead and insert oxygen sensor. So there's O2 number 1. Then I want to add another one. I want to add O2 number 1 feedback. So now I've got the two additional parameters I wish to record. Now if you wish to remove one of them, you simply right click and hit remove channel. And then the procedure to start is just F6 and F7. And there you have it. Now we're going to move into ECU logging, which is a little bit more complicated to set up and configure. You'd go to logging, ECU internal logging setup. Inside of there, you're going to find a variety of options. You're going to have the channels that are being logged. Now these are all configurable and customizable. In order to change one of them, you simply double click it and select whatever parameters you want from the drop down. Now, there are two speeds at which this records. There's a fast and a slow. Anything that you don't care 100% about the resolution of the data, record that within the slow. Anything you need to know 100% what was going on with the car, you're going to want to log in your fast rate. Some examples of that would be your knock values, or your O2 value, or your engine load value. So any of those parameters you might want to actually record at the highest rate. Some values you might not need to record at the highest rate would be coolant temperature, maybe your injector duty, or your air temperature. Items that are going to stay fairly static, or don't change by huge amounts. Now there are a bunch of different ways you can customize how and when it starts to data log. Up here in the logging conditions, you can tell it to log is always off. You can tell it logging is always on. If logging is always on, it will continue to record the log until it's completely full. Then it will no longer log. You can log when the engine is running. So this means if the RPM is greater than 0, it'll data log. You can log when the vehicle is moving. Obviously, if the car is going faster than 0 miles per hour, it'll data log. This might be good for road racing. You can log at full throttle. This might be good for a dyno pull. Or you can log with custom conditions. I prefer to use the custom conditions one because then I can custom tailor my logging parameters. So you'll want to go ahead and set up your custom conditions to your specifications. You can change your load spec, your throttle position, your RPM is at least, and your vehicle speed is at least. So for me currently, I've got it set to start logging at 50% throttle and more than 10 miles an hour. This will ensure that the car is in third gear and going wide open throttle. You can also use a switched input. Now, in the event you want to just data log once you've enabled a switch, you just check this, and then you need to select which switch actually enables the data logging. This would be in the event you're at the racetrack and you want to just collect all of your samples of data. You would turn it on, make your pull, and then turn it off. Loop logging currently does not work in the current firmware. and it's slated to be fixed in the future. The logging rate. This just adjusts the amount of samples you're taking. So in the event that you're going to be at the road track and running, 8 20-minute sessions throughout the day, and you don't have your laptop with you to pull the logs, you might want to slow the rate down so that you can capture all of your data. If you have your laptop available and you can pull the data log, you might want to record it at the highest level. But to give you an idea, at the fastest logging rate, you get about 6 minutes worth of data. At the slowest, you get about 1,500 minutes worth of data. So you just really need to custom tailor this to your needs. Now, to download or to save your conditions, all you do is you hit close and it'll go ahead and save it to the EMS. You're going to need to power cycle your EMS to record all the changes and to flush the data log. Now, to download your ECU data log, you simply go to Logging, Download ECU Log, and it'll download the data and you're ready to rock and roll.